I love when coaches, consultants, and professional service providers want to do big things in their business. They want to rise to the top and influence their market and the world around them. They want to have a greater impact and make a more lucrative income. Well, if this is you, welcome to Expert in You podcast, the show where I interview other experts and coaches, consultants, so that they can share their success strategies with you. We're going to talk about marketing and how to close more sales, how to get more premium clients, and how to really build your visibility in the market and scale your business like a boss. If this is you, welcome to the show. I want to ask you to subscribe and hit the notification bell right now so you don't miss one episode. Grab your coffee and buckle up because we are ready to give it all to you to help you become the expert and get paid as the expert that you are. Hey everyone, it's Carden here, and I want to welcome you back to another episode of Expert in You podcast. And today I have a true expert with me. I'm excited to have him on as my guest, and his name is Torrin Minutillo. Did I say that right?
Excellent. Well done.
Oh, good. He is out of Australia, but he is a business coach. And I really wanted to have him on because I love some of the things that he's doing out there for leadership development. And we're going to talk all about that, dive in. But Torrin, welcome to my show.
Thanks, Anne. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to it.
It is an honor to have you on. I'm super excited to interview you. I love to have people on that have so much value to bring to my audience and things that they can share. So let's dive right in. Torrin, tell everyone just a little bit about what you do and what your primary coaching business is all about.
Yep. Thanks, Anne. So ideally, I like to work based on this is coming up 33 years now in business, continuous. So I've been around a while. I've got the grey hair to show for it. But I love to help business owners who are quite established, potentially struggling after a period of time and being in business and maybe trying to struggle through to scale their business or not understand exactly how to go forward with it. And typically they're businesses of roughly 10 people or more, because when you've got 10 people in your business, traditionally you're going to have people problems. And the stuff, the work that I do with people is really helping them understand human behavior at a deeper level, and then how that impacts the business environment to get the best out of yourself firstly, and then the people that you're trying to lead within your business. So, as I said, I've been doing this now for about 5 years. I'm off the back of a real estate career for 22 years. I still have a real estate company, but my focus right now is really helping business owners, just to get to where they want to get to in their business life. And it's very much situational based on the individual and their journey and where they're at. So I've got a lot of information that I can share with people around that. So that's what I'm doing at the moment.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. And one of the things you talked about was they have to, typically you work with businesses that have 10 people or more, because at that point, they really have to be a leader and a CEO of their company, and they can no longer be that doing everything kind of person. Can you talk about some of the industries that you have coached in and that you've helped?
Yeah, it's a wide range, actually. Sort of financial services is something that seems to attract because, or service businesses in general. Mm-hmm. Accounting businesses, nice. Financial services I mentioned. There's some couple of mortgage broking industry companies that I've dealt with. Then there's the trade services. So, some larger trade services, painters, cabinet makers, a couple of builders.
A lot of those.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, is that it's not necessarily specific to industry. It's more about the individual on their journey and where they're at and they need help. So I suppose it's more mindset focused, making sure that they're on the right track to achieve what they want, and as opposed to the strategic, tactical stuff.
Wonderful. So one of the things that a lot of coaches struggle with is really how to get those clients and how to get them to understand that they need help. What is your process, Torrin?
Yeah, well, I think, identifying people who have firstly got a problem, that's, most entrepreneurs don't like to think they need help.
Right.
One of the reasons they become entrepreneurs because they think they can do it all on their own. I learned the hard way. I was similar, but eventually when I did get help, I made some great breakthroughs with that through that process. But I think really the process for me, a lot of my business comes via word of mouth initially through referrals, but just helping people understand that they're not alone on the business journey. So I offer a discovery call where I just sort of, no agenda to do anything more, but just to help them break down their business, where they're at, to really understand themselves and where they're positioned within that business. Because it seems obvious, but when you break it down, particularly if you've been around for a while and you've got a team, there's not enough hours in the day is generally the first problem that people face. So I just help people bring awareness. So that's the key thing, is bring awareness to where they're at and get them to understand their own situation at a deeper level. I think that's what I'm trying to achieve when I first have a conversation with someone.
Nice. So how do you get into those initial conversations with people?
You mean, how do they come to me, or what?
Yeah.
What's the start process?
So other than referrals, do you do any kind of outreach for people, or is mostly everything inbound for you?
Mostly it's inbound.
Okay.
And I do joint venture partnerships, so particularly with business to business, clients that already have a business. And so through that process, I leverage through that because they might, and adds value to that particular person's business as well. So I might be called in to help a group, and we pull a group together, and then from there I may do a small presentation to 7 or 8 businesses that are affiliated with another person, and then from there, so it's really an internal process.
I love it. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about you have a coaching system that you called Attergy Coaching System, and you're the founder of that. And I know you told me what that is kind of about, but can you share that with the audience and kind of promote that to them so they can hear more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So I suppose the distinction for me is really getting business owners to understand that there's an outward journey of their business life, and we'll call that the outer game. And if we maybe just get a little bit, sort of break it down a bit, but I see that every business, no matter what, has 5 functions. There's a sales and marketing and operations, finance, money in and out control, the delivery of the product or service, and then there's people challenges. Everything that happens external in your business, in other words, what other people get to see when they interact with your business, will fall into one of those 5 functions of the business. And as a business, we're trying to impact our market through that process. And that sets up in things like, having a strategy, your tactics, what's your method, your model, having some systems and processes. You probably have got a vision, or you're working towards some goals. Well, if you haven't, you should. And these are all external things of yourself. So my model is around helping people understand that to impact all those things that you're trying to achieve in your business comes through that, but it's your inner game, who you are internally, that's impacting those results the most. So what I've found over a period of time, man, is that, dealing with a lot of businesses when I was working in the real estate industry, what I forgot to tell you before is that the real estate business that I'm in is commercial real estate. So I've been dealing with a lot of business owners for 20 plus years, and have got to learn, the difference between the ones that are really doing very well and the ones maybe not so much. So I spent quite a bit of time pulling that back. And what I found was the distinction between the ones that were really high achievers and the ones that weren't was the ones that were connected with who they were internally and how that was being expressed through their business. And since studying business owners and doing a lot of work around human behavior for the last 7 or 8 plus years now, is that it's a really distinct situation where a lot of business owners will only externally focus on what they're trying to achieve, but they won't look internally at who they are. And it's because sometimes it can be a bit confronting. So my whole method is about, and I call it the science of leadership, because it's personal leadership that connects your outer game, what you're trying to achieve, with who you are internally. And from my human behavior, work, understanding people at a subconscious and an unconscious level, this is what's driving us anyway. But most of us don't pay attention to it. So, we don't check into what our belief systems are and our value systems and, the assumptions that we make. Assumptions is a huge thing. We're constantly making assumptions every day, how our emotions are affecting us, even as far as personal trauma can show up in business life. And all these things are impacting your responses and your actions that you're taking on a day-to-day basis, which then impact your outer game, which is, the tactics and the strategic stuff that you're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So my method is really about having, showing people how to connect to their inner game. And then once they do that and they really get clear about who it is within themselves that's actually driving it, the results they get externally, much more efficient. Mm-hmm. They get, they be able to choose their audience, their marketplace that they're trying to serve. It's very surprising how many business owners don't really know, even ones that are very well established, who exactly is the market that they're trying to attract. And it's often because they haven't done the work to understand human behavior at a deeper level, to really understand who it is that I want to impact.
Right.
How do I want to how do I want to attract them towards me? And then having the value proposition that's going to be able to serve them. So I suppose it's very much an internal journey versus an external journey, which is what most business owners develop their business. And it's only the reason mostly that happens is because that's how most people are shown on how to grow their business. And the way I break it down, there's 3 types of growth. There's growth to do more. There's growth to achieve more, which is what most people really want. But the only way you're going to grow to achieve more is to become more, and you need to become someone different.
Ooh,
as you
I love
evolve.
that. That's awesome. I love that. So growth to do more, growth to do.
So most people grow their business by doing more. More sales, more customers, more clients, more of everything. But what they really want, they want to achieve more. Mm-hmm. Like most people go into businesses, they don't just want to work for nothing. They want to achieve.
Yes.
But what I've found is that the third growth is the growth in the person. The growth to become more allows you to achieve more. So you don't end up in this business where you're running around, 60, 70, 80 hours a week, but still not achieving much. And what happens when you get attached to your inner game and really understand that, you end up achieving more by doing less work, because you really get, so go back to those 5 functions. As you evolve a business and grow, you should be moving away from those 5 functions and delegating that, or having other people in your team. But unfortunately, because of, potential belief systems, is that you don't trust anybody else to do anything for you. So you get
they don't want to let go of control, do they? No. Yeah.
And like most people don't even realize they are taking control.
Right.
That's the point. That's where, when you do some internal work on yourself, and we call this personal development, which is what it is.
Right.
And there's a lot of psychological human behavior that goes on in behind it. But so it's really fascinating work. It's always great when you get people engage in this, and they, literally a light goes on and they can see the pathway.
Big ahas, yes.
Yeah, very big.
I love it. What kind of training, Torrin, did you have, or did you have formal training that kind of brought you to this place with what you're coaching on?
Yeah, it was a process of evolving, really, and my work around this human behaviour started when my business life journey is sort of split up into 2. It's like pre-global financial crisis and after global financial crisis. So when the global financial crisis came along in 2008 here in Australia, at that stage I'd about 19 years in business, and it really set me back on my heels. And I just got into real estate at that point, doing very well. But for me, my journey was that I got into a rut and I really lost a lot of money, went backwards. But what I realized after a couple of years, it was that it wasn't the global financial, it was me that wasn't prepared, wasn't resilient enough to actually withstand this economic crisis that was happening. So that really led me down a path to really understand, how do I find a better way to do this? And I just started reading books and understanding that, personal development journey. The more I learned, the more I implemented, the quicker I got results, the more fascinated I became. So I really set off on a journey, 12 years ago now, of really understanding what makes us tick, what as humans. So I see business now as just a human expression that's, like it's a part of the human condition that's expressed through business, or just any other thing. So a lot of the work, so it's very much a life coaching within business.
Right. That's awesome. Now, you also have a book out called The Essential Inner Game. And you, we were going to bring this up at the end, but you are willing to offer that to anyone for free that would like that book. Is that what I understood?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, we asked before about how I get clients. Often this is one of the best ways, is that offering the book available online. If they read the book, and I will send them a real copy of the book. So on my website, attergy.com, on the front page, there's a button there you can push and put some details in, and I'll send that in the letterbox to you. And then from there, if people engage and resonate with the book, there's a fair chance they're going to resonate with my message and to be able to help them. So, I mentioned to you before we got on the call that this stage of coaching in the business life journey is not for everybody, right? Because if you're in a startup mode, really in the first 3 to 5 years of your business, you're in a survival mode trying to get momentum. But once you've built up an organization that's quite substantial and you've got other people working for you, really to grow and scale that, you really need to become a leader. Yes. To be able to push that business forward. So for me, the first place to start to learn is learning how to lead yourself. And once you've become very accustomed at leading yourself or understand human behavior and what makes people thrive, then you really got the ability to maybe lead a team. But I think what often happens is people get thrust in the leadership position purely because they're the only one standing at the front of the queue. But they haven't necessarily done any leadership training or really understanding how to get the best out of people. And often the distinction is you're either a manager or a leader, and they're completely different. Right. Having the ability to manage people is different to actually leading them and getting them to get the best out of themselves, and then ultimately they'll get the best for you in the business that you're trying. So that's it's leadership is really at the core of it. In fact, I often say to business owners that, no matter what business you're in, you're really in the business of leadership. Yes. And that's the business that you're in. The product or the value proposition that you offer to a marketplace, that's secondary to being able to lead an organization and to grow it.
Well, and you're not going to have a business if you can't lead yourself anyway, right? So even in a startup phase, you have to really step out and be a leader if you're going to have a successful business and make something happen. I love this. One of the things that you talk about is courage. Can you dive into that just a little bit and talk about that and how you can really apply that to the clients that you work with and your expectations there?
Sure. So when I mentioned before that the connection point between the inner game and the outer game, so you as the personal leader, I believe there's 3 things that every problem in business has either an origin or a pathway through. Mm-hmm. So it's either a focus problem, a connection problem, or a courage problem. And whatever surface problem that most business owners face, it'll have either an origin or a pathway through one of those things. The good news is that the solution going forward is usually one of those 3 things. It's either a focus problem, it's either a connection problem, or a courage problem. Mm-hmm. Courage has been something that I've really looked into over a period of time now from a resilience point of view in business and being able to really grow a business, is that a lot of our businesses, whether you realize it or not, are grown based on our own value systems. So whatever that value system that that's driving you, and so these values form virtues in who you are and what you're trying to achieve. The interesting thing is that courage is a virtue, and at the testing point of your values, because we all get tested along the way, it's actually courage which is the form that's going to help you push through. Mm-hmm. So whatever value you're trying to portray within your business, whenever that gets tested, and it will in business, it's courage that will help you push through the barrier to be able to get to the other side that you're trying to get to. And courage is the antidote to fear. Most people's belief systems will hold them back in some shape or form, and it's usually fear that's driving, because as humans, we're all driven by the safety first. Mm-hmm. Safety is our primary a primal instinct to keep safe, and so that shows up in fear in some ways. So courage forms a major part in helping us break through those barriers that we need to break through. So I help people understand where they sit on the courage spectrum. Mm-hmm. And so just if you give me 2 minutes just to share what I call the line of courage, which came out of a study done by psychologist David Hawkins, who wrote a book called The Power versus Force. And it talks about how when you are above the line of courage, or you consistently behave above the line of courage in consciousness, is that it gives you empowerment. It helps attract good things towards you and empowers you to move to whatever the goals are you're trying to achieve. And when you are consistently behaving and thinking below the line of courage, it disempowers you and takes you away. So this is not necessarily the courage as in, like jumping out of an aeroplane with a parachute, which requires some level of courage. I'm talking about day-to-day behaviours and things like, being in denial or being a victim, blaming, complaining, sort of shame, guilt. These are all below the line of courage behaviours, which we all can recognise that we all face these things from time to time, but they disempower you from getting to where it is you want to go. Whereas above the line of courage are things like, being intentional, having an energetic, being vulnerable, being acceptance, forgiveness, being grateful, selflessness, optimism. These are all characteristics of people who are living above the line of courage, because they require some level of courage to be able to display these. So what happens is that when you consistently live above the line of courage, you create energy fields around you, which attracts more of that to you. And people want to engage with you. So if you're in a sales type environment and you're constantly living below the line of courage and complaining and blaming everybody else, you're actually disempowering, pushing people away from you. But when you consistently live above the line of courage, you are creating an energy field around you, which drags more people. So I think this is definitely core to your inner game, to who you are, because it's not something that you think about. But it impacts all of those 5 functions of the business that we spoke about, which are the sales and marketing, operation, finance, delivery of product and service to people. It impacts everybody around you. And as a leader, if you are leading an organization and you're consistently living below the line of courage, you're not really going to be a good leader, because you're not going to get people to follow you and move forward. Right. Whereas when you are compassionate, you're empathetic, you're understanding, you certainly trust people, you're intentional about where you're going, you're taking responsibility, all these things. So really help people understand where they sit on this spectrum. And that's like a bit of a diagnostic tool, which to help people understand. And not just for business, but this is just in life in general, and on how to get yourself into an empowering state, to start with, from a point of view of trying to grow a business. And in the study that David did, he spent 30 years studying human behavior and came up with this, what he calls the map of consciousness. He identified that 85% of the world's population live consistently below the line of courage, right? So if you want to grow a business, the first thing you need to do is break out of that. From a mindset perspective, you really need to get clear on a day-to-day basis. How do I get above the line of courage on a regular basis so I can be intentional about where I'm going? And even that word intentional, it seems obvious, but knowing each day what you're intentional about, what you're trying to achieve, will help bring the energy around you and yourself to things. So that's a bit about courage, and I go heavy into that with my coaching clients, because it's pivotal every day. It's not just you don't just pull it out whenever you need it. It's like you need this every day in your business.
It has to be ingrained in you. Yes,
absolutely.
Yes, yeah. I love it. Oh my goodness, you have shared so much great information here. I've taken tons of notes here. So thank you. Super, super valuable. What have been, if you can think of 1 or 2 incredible results that you've had that just really stand out to you that you're super proud of, can you just share a couple of those, like what your process has helped someone achieve?
Yeah. So the ones that I get most enjoyment out of probably, I'd like to probably answer it that way, because it's not always about making more money. It's often about a person who you meet who, there's got a large team of people, 25, 30 people sometimes in their organisation, but they potentially could be working 60 to 80 hours a week trying to manage all this. And the truth is they spend 60 to 80 hours a week. And we've all done this from time to time from growing businesses. But because as an entrepreneur, you don't switch off, when you go home, you're probably spending another 20 or 30 hours a week thinking about the 60 or 80 hours that you're working.
Right.
So what ends up happening, it becomes your biggest arena of your life. There's nothing else that you do in your life that you spend potentially 80 to 100 hours either actively working in a business or thinking about.
We definitely don't work out that much, do we?
But what ends up happening, Anne, is that your identity of who you are gets tied with that, which is quite understanding that happens because of how important it plays, in particularly if you're addicted to success, which a lot of entrepreneurs are. So to answer your question, it's actually getting people to be able to understand that you can have the life you want as well as have a thriving business. And the best results that I love is when I get a person that I meet that is, struggling to cope with family life and all these other things that they want to do, because they believe that's a belief system that says, well, you got to work hard, you got to be hustling all the time, and to actually create a process within them. Often they've got all the tools at their ready anyway. It's just getting them to understand, how do you lead yourself? How do you then lead the team so that you can actually achieve more and work less? And one of the key determinants to this is when, there's a phrase that I use is that, when you value your time more than you value your money, you'll end up making more money.
That's true.
So what happens is people get tied into valuing their money before they're more than their time, and they don't take the step back to be actually orchestrate a business. So really the businesses and the ones that, there's a handful, more than a handful, but ones that come to mind is really the people that have been able to extract themselves, not completely out of the business, but certainly back from, say, 60, 70 hours a week down to potentially 20, 25 hours a week, and choose to do what they want within the business and thrive. That to me gives me the biggest satisfaction when you see a business owner who's maybe been doing that for 10 or 15 years, and then in the space of 6 months, they can see that they're moving to a place that can give them their life back and potentially take holidays and all these things that they got into their business life in the first place to do, but have never been able to achieve that. They might have a nice home, plenty of money, the car they want in the garage, all that sort of stuff, but they're not really enjoying their journey.
Right.
And I think that's the distinction, is that, and there'll be a lot of people that will hear this, and a lot of people that I meet that they can identify with that, is that their business gets to own them. They don't own the business.
Right. I always say, build your business around your life, not the other way around, not your life around your business. And too many people, and I've done this, and you probably did this.
Have done.
After multiple businesses that I've built, I was guilty of that. And so everything you're saying, really I had to learn, just like other people have to learn it along the way. So it's super powerful, and it's so true. You don't have to give up your whole life for your business, contrary to popular belief. So I love that you talked about that. So great results, great job. And you and I are very much on the same page. I'm not a believer in hustle and grind. And I really believe that money is a tool and a resource. It is not the end all thing. It's really about, but I think most entrepreneurs like yourself, we love what we do. So it is really easy sometimes to overindulge in our business without really realizing it. And one of the things that's so powerful about what you do is you can help people really see things from a different perspective, but also see blind spots that they have that they really don't even recognize. Is that accurate?
Totally. Yeah, 100%. And go back to, I mentioned before about identity. This comes up a lot. This is very much forms your inner game that you're not even conscious, because often this is at an unconscious level. What I help people do is from an identity perspective, is that most business owners, and I always say most because it's not everybody, right? There are some people that have got it together and they understand this stuff. But really, when you're trying to drive a business, you don't think about a lot of this. Right. It's that their identity gets tied to their achievements. Mm-hmm. So they very much, even the self-worth and everything that they're doing gets tied into whether they're successful or not, whether they make 50, 100, 200, 500, whatever the metric is they're trying to measure. But what I get them to understand or show them is that to shift your identity to who it is that you want to be, and then allow the achievement to work from it. So you're not tying yourself to the achievement, you're tying yourself to who's the human being that you really want to be.
Yes.
When you separate that, you're not so fixated with the achievement that's going up and down potentially, and therefore your emotions are going up with it, which then create a whole lot of other, stress, anxiety, and a whole lot of other things that go with it. So, one of the things that I often say to people is that, they ask me, what's the result I'm going to get? And I said, I like to think you're going to get a calmness about where your business life is and where your journey is, not about necessarily doubling your income, because you're already making good money.
Mm-hmm.
You already got an established business that's been around for a while. So it's not like, development and growth. You've done a lot of that. It's now about getting, and often what happens is more growth comes when you're calm about where you're at and what you're doing.
Right.
And you're not stuck on this achievement model all the time.
Yeah, because stress and all of that can paralyze you. I mean, just
absolutely.
It can absolutely paralyze you in your business, and you can't even think to move forward or anything else. So, oh my goodness, we could talk for a long time.
Yeah, we could.
This has been wonderful. I have truly enjoyed having you on. You are clearly an expert, which is who we interview on here. You are clearly an expert at what you do. So people can get a hold of you. How, Torrin?
Okay, so the best way is either connect through my website, attergy.com, so it's Attergy, or if you just search my name, Torrin Minutillo, on LinkedIn. I'm quite active there, putting videos up and just, communicating with a good community there. So they're the two best places. Reach out. I love talking to people. With Zoom, we can talk globally. Yeah. Here we are. I couldn't be further away from you, I don't think, on the planet at the moment.
I know. He's in Australia. I'm in Missouri. That's fairly far away.
Yeah. But, with this beautiful technology, we can have a great conversation. So if anybody wants to reach out just to understand these things we've spoken about at a deeper level, happy to do that.
I highly recommend reaching out to him, connecting with him. Are you on Facebook as well, or is LinkedIn your primary place? Because you work with high-level leaders, it's understandable that LinkedIn is
LinkedIn is the place.
Your big hangout. Yeah. So, well, this has been wonderful. Get his book. Go to his website. He said he'll send his book to you. So if all of this has interested you, go check that out and definitely connect with him. You can hear how much value you'll get from just following him. So, Torrin, thank you so much for being here. What a pleasure. What an honor to have you on. And I look forward to just seeing some very big things from you. And it's been great. So everyone, thank you again for being with us again this week. And make sure that you like or share this as well if you found value in this. And if you are not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. And again, God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.
If you've enjoyed this episode, I want to invite you to go check out a free training that I have at expertinu.us. It is a training that I have on how you can get ultra premium dream clients, scale your business, get more freedom, and really simplify your business and multiply your money. So go check that out. And again, that is expertinu.us. I want to thank you for being here with me this week. I hope you found massive value. Please always leave a comment, feedback, or a question. We check them all. And I want you to go rock your business and make sure you join us again next week. God bless you. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.